Hello and welcome to the Beyond the Barside podcast, the podcast that celebrates everything Colchester United. I am Aaron J and welcome to the first episode that we have. It's a bit of a jam-packed episode. I spoke to a couple of U's fans about their predictions for next season and a little bit of a reflection on last season as well. I spoke to Maldon Tiptree CEO Barrie Barlow about his hopes for the season as well. I spoke to Andy and Louise from the ladies' side as well. But we'll get straight into it. Last year was a very interesting season. It took a little bit of a while for the U's to get going, but ultimately we finished quite strongly, albeit ran out of steam towards the end. I spoke to U's fan Dave to see what his views were on how we got on. So we are here with U's fan Dave, who's going to look at last season as a bit of a review of what we were up to. It was a bit of an up and down year.
Mm-hmm.
It started really positively, like we were going to win the league at AFC Wimbledon.
Well, 9 minutes into the season, we were up. We were going to be undefeated for the whole season. We weren't going to see the goal, and then sometimes in dark moments, I do think of that 9 minutes just to pick myself back up.
It was unreal, wasn't it? Like Goodliff,
the feeling
almost became the best striker we've had in about 5 years.
Yeah, and it's I think it had a big influence. I think on going for a bit of a tangent already, just on the whole way Goodliff's season panned out.
I think
because I think we all like him.
Mm-hmm.
I think especially after that first 9 minutes, but that injury got, and we were quite near it. Just to the sort of left-hand side of the goal in the front, it was a horrible injury.
Yeah, it was
absolutely horrible. And for the type of player he is, and the game he plays, I think it probably was best all round for him just to go and get some games. Just because even in the back of his mind, he's a brave guy, strong guy, but even someone like him in the back of your mind, that's got to be there.
You got, I mean, you've got to wonder, having an injury like that. And the game that he plays, and probably the game that he was brought in to play as well.
Yeah, exactly.
How much does that have an impact on him psychologically? And, Danny was careful with him after that. He did have quite a lot of time out of the team where he was sort of more of a bit part player. He seemed to prefer Flanagan and Donnelly as that partnership, and Kel's coming in as well. Sort of push Goodliff out a little bit, but I do think pre-season will be telling if he comes in ahead of Tucker.
Definitely, and I think he was pretty successful at Southend, apart from thankfully that last game. But no, he did well, and he seemed to be. I did sort of catch a couple of their sort of playoff games on the TV, and he seemed to be the type of player that we thought he was going to be. And like I said, I think it is solely down to that injury because it was awful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then from AFC Wimbledon, it was a bit more inconsistent until the new year. What do you think? What do you think the sort of reasoning behind that? What was your opinion about sort of the start of the season?
Well, I was kind of expecting it, not to I'm making some sort of great football in mind or oracle, but just the number of players we had in, the number of sort of unknowns. I don't think Danny really found the formation. I think he would have quite liked to have done the 4-3-3 like he started at Wimbledon. But I just don't think that really worked with the personnel we had. And obviously one of the many benefits of having Cowley in charge is that he knows when to change things, when to adapt, how to adapt the team, how to adapt the game. And then once you settled on the formation, I was expecting a bit of a stop-start beginning to the season just because of the nature of the squad turnover.
Yeah.
And having to find that first 11 and, find players that came through. I mean, you can almost put the season into before Jamie McDonnell and after Jamie McDonnell. Because I remember sort of those first, I think it was Port Vale away when McDonnell first sort of came on. I think it was like the last 20 minutes. But even then it was like, oh, It's one of those loan signings. Everyone goes, oh, "Who's this?" It's not very exciting.
And he was really careful with McDonald as well.
He
Like, he
was.
had a lot of faith in Woodyard at the start of the season, and Woodyard didn't really give Cowley a reason to drop him.
Well, no, so he did. Woodyard did the role he was brought in to do really well for that first. And when a team is sort of up and down, you need sort of someone to be that galvanising player. But I think it was pretty clear that, like I said, he did his job really well breaking up play. But sometimes when he was actually on the ball, he'd just fall over. It was incredible. What's happening? And then I think Danny, because he talked about McDonald quite glowingly when he brought him in, and then about how he was doing in training. Yeah, when he came in, you can tell. So that sort of, I mean, there were 2 runs, weren't there? But you can really sort of break it down to sort of about half a season with those 2 defeats in the middle. So Accrington and Swindon, and that run coincided with the emergence of McDonald.
Absolutely.
And it was just like having an extra player on the pitch, the way he got around the pitch. And I think, we did play some good football. Overall, we had a good season. But I always think about that Swindon game at home. We were on 4-0, and Jamie McDonald made 5 big tackles in about 15 seconds. And it was thrilling.
Yeah.
You can score all the goals you want, as many counter-attacks, breakaways, but that was just, you're on your feet.
Yeah, he's almost been what we've been missing over recent years, that where defensively we've let in goals that perhaps we shouldn't, and the back 4 have always felt a little bit unsteady.
Yeah.
But having someone like McDonald in front of them just to almost stop it getting to that point was huge, and it took so much pressure off the back 4 that,
and it gave,
I think that's in no small way a contribution to the amount of clean sheets we got in the end.
I absolutely see the way he was. It was quite clever, actually. I think didn't start straight away, but he wasn't a big guy, but he was really athletic, and they began to use that as he'd be the first contact from goal kicks, long balls in the air.
Yeah,
which meant we always, whether it was Donnelly, Kelleher, alongside Flanagan, they never had to step out and go forward.
No,
and potentially leave a gap. And that's not, they're good defenders, but if either Flanagan or Kelleher goes forward, gets turned around, we're in a bad spot. And McDonald allowed us to do that, and it also, I think, gave him being there gave Edwards a bit more freedom, because it meant he's not as disciplined as Anderson, so we'd have sort of the right hand side tied up. Anderson really, he's one of those players who he gets a bit of stick, but the work he does and the role he plays allows other players like Edwards, because it effectively meant with McDonald there, he only had to sort of cover half the pitch, 2/3 of the pitch if we were on getting counted on. So it was, so he was absolutely integral. It'd be interesting to see how Dominic Gape comes in, because obviously been earmarked to sort of fill that role. Whether or not we get another young player in to sort of be mentored by him. I don't know sort of what condition Milton Only's going to be in.
And that's that was something that I spoke about with someone recently. He clearly likes Milton Only, and he was glowing about how well he'd settled into the first team, and then he had a horrendous injury that can affect players in multiple ways. How does he come back from it? Is he young enough to sort of not shake it off, but come back in a physical condition that he was in prior to the injury? Cowley obviously has a lot of faith in him, and does an experienced player like Gape provide that sort of mentorship role that we had last year with Taylor and Sampson?
Yeah, exactly. And I think he's going back to Woodyard. I think Gabe's probably a bit more of a more technical, but better around footballer from what I can see than Woodyard. And so I think that's a positive. I think we are still short in midfield, and I think this season sorry, this is meant to be a review, not a preview. I think this season, absolutely crucial how fit Teddy Bishop stays.
Yeah. He played a lot last year. He played a lot for a player that's had
played
quite a lot of injury.
Yeah, but had big periods, important periods out. That was the problem. And, at the end of the day, I think we're all realistic. If he wasn't a player that struggled with injury, he probably wouldn't be with us. But yeah, if we can keep him fit, I think that's going to be absolutely crucial. Obviously, depending on who else we bring in. But yeah, just going back to the review. So yeah, the start of the season, I kind of expected just because of the turnaround. But you could see, what we haven't had in the past few seasons was players who, whether they were playing well or playing badly, would still stand up, and be counted. And then we could see, and that sort of grew as the season went. And then we sort of, once it sort of the team became settled, McDonald came in. Obviously, first half of the season, Donnelly was there. I thought was exceptional.
Yeah, fantastic player.
You got Ian Dolo. It's my son's favourite player. I think he's just brilliant. Just the modern day Dennis Irwin. For people my age will remember that. Just 8 out of 10 every game. Does his job in defence, does his job going forward. I think he's really, really good. I think it was crucial we kept hold of him this year. And then sort of Egbo sort of cemented that role. I do like Egbo.
Me too.
But he's a strange one. I like his personality. When he's good. When he's bad, it's noticeable.
Yeah, there were a few defensive frailties last year that sort of came down that side. And Egbo, towards the end of the season, took a lot of stick. Hunt took a lot of stick at the beginning as well, which I don't know. I think there was a lot asked of him.
I think it was a bit unfair because we had a few injuries. Obviously, with Goodliff, and I think and then Kelleher was out, and I think Hunt had to play centre back a couple of times. He's not a centre back, and he's not. I think he's 5'8", 5'9". It's not his role, and he tried to do what he could, and I think, and obviously that was his first few games.
Well, I marked 3 games on the bounce. He played 3 different positions.
Yeah, and I don't think that helped. And I think he's perfectly capable at fullback. He could play either side. He's completely 2-footed. So I do think we need to get someone else in if we don't end up signing Manny. I don't think we will. But I wouldn't be disappointed to see him on the team sheet on the first day if that's the case.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Egbo. I mean, he had a habit of not thinking enough without the ball, but thinking too much with the ball. And because when he got going forward, he could really charge. He's so athletic and so strong. And I think
I think one of the big positives from last season sort of relates to Egbo a little bit, and it relates to Taylor and a few other players. Is for the first time in a long time, probably since the McGreal playoff season, we had a squad with a bit more personality to it. We had characters that I think we've lacked since the Sammies and the Pels. And I think Egbo was a massive part of that. He was a really integral part of the sort of dressing room. I think Taylor's the same. And I think there are other players in there that sort of bounce off each other so well. It created a group that were willing to go and fight, which I think we were lacking under pretty much every
manager, rugby managers,
everyone after McGreal, pretty much. And it's taken a Cowley to come in and pick a squad that are willing to fight for each other.
And I think that was really telling. I think towards the end of the season, sort of jumping forward, there was a couple of games. There weren't neither of which we won, but kind of stood out to me. And I was sort of preparing for this, sort of thinking about games that really stand out to me. So the first one was Gillingham away. After 20 minutes, we were 1-0 up, but Edwards and Payne are off the pitch, injured. And I looked round and I said to my son Jacob and my nephews Nathan and Noah, who were with me, I looked around. Of the first 11 who you will put on the team, if everyone's fit, only 3 of them are on the pitch. We had a left back in centre midfield. We had an on loan centre back in centre midfield. Jack Tucker.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else, I think, so Macy, Eggbone, Flanagan were the 3, and maybe Kelleher as well, on pitch, sorry I say. So we're the only 3 who you would put in that first 11. Everyone's fit. That's the team that starts.
Mm-hmm.
And despite that, they dug in, got a very unlucky penalty, and we got a point. There are quite a few games like this and throughout the season, but under whoever you want to say, Etherington, any of those, we would have lost that game 4-0.
Would have folded. Yeah, we would have done. We would have
4-1, 5-1, second half, just a complete capitulation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that really stands out. And then the next one was Doncaster away.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you were there.
Yeah.
So at the end of the game, we got absolutely tanked. Yeah. And it was, it was that bit of the season after Bradford, after the virus, the mystery virus. And then the injuries, suspensions, the blooming international duty for, well done to him, but it was bad timing for McDonnell. That Doncaster, we lost 3-0. And after the game, I can't really remember an atmosphere like it, especially after a defeat. We got louder.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was sort of looking at Danny Cowley. I think he was, and a couple of players were a little bit taken aback.
Yeah.
In a good way, in a really good way, and thinking it's not. And for the first time, it goes back to what you said before. It was not a team who hadn't stood up. It wasn't a team who hadn't fought. It was a team who'd given everything.
Yeah.
And just come up short.
Huge thank you to Dave there, talking about how the U's squad has developed a little bit more character under the Cowleys, and the revelation that has been Jamie McDonnell and the impact that he had on our season last year. Moving swiftly on, it is nearly time for our first pre-season friendly. And ahead of that, I spoke to opposition Maldon Tiptree CEO Barrie Barlow about the amazing community-led projects that they've got going on over there. So we are back with an opposition view, and I am joined by the CEO of Colchester United's first pre-season opponents, Barrie Barlow. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Aaron?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah, very good. So this is...
Top.
Thank you very much. I like yours as well, which are on sale now, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, so this is great. It's the first sort of opposition person that I'm speaking to, but of course it's not really an opposition because Colchester and Maldon are 2 closely linked sides, but it's all a bit new this year. Do you want to talk me through what the project is that you've got going?
Yeah, absolutely. So we recently took over Maldon Tiptree. We bought the club from the Cowling family, who own Colchester United. So there's always been a strong link between the 2 clubs, but also Colchester's one of our local teams. It's like sounding down the road. So we're massive fans of Colchester. So we're really privileged to have the first team come over and play our first pre-season match. So we're really excited. We have to do a few little changes because you guys are in, I can't remember, is it the EGL or something league?
What, with the EFL?
You're in your EFL.
Yeah.
You all have different kind of rules than we do. So you can't drink by the side of the pitch and all of that kind of stuff. So we've had the Colchester police people who are local to you guys, who I think are always at your stadium. They've been along, had a look around the place, all that kind of stuff, and they're getting themselves ready now to be able to, be able to, make sure it's safe and that for all the people coming from Colchester. So that was a little bit of a shock that we have to tell our fans now that they can't drink anything by the side of the pitch. That's going to be a bit of a piss off, but it is what it is. We're more excited about playing some real talent. So hopefully it's going to be a good game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there are some very big names for the Isthmian League that have joined Maldon Tiptree. The recruitment process has been astounding, really. I mean, from bringing Kevin Horlock in from Needham Market all the way through to most recently bringing in Freddie Sears. How has all that come about? What was the situation?
Well, actually, we've got a few players like Tom Eastman and Cameron James, and I think some of these guys have already played for Colchester as well
Hmm.
in the past.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a lot of history there as well for those guys. But the trouble is, yeah, Aaron, I don't know any of these guys at all. Never even heard of their name. So when somebody comes to me and goes, "Oh yeah, Freddie says he's interested, and we're having a meeting with him next week," I'm like, "Okay, happy days, let's go and meet him." And then he comes around to the house, and we have dinner and all that kind of stuff. And I still don't know who this guy is, but apparently on his first match out at West Ham, he scored a goal and all that kind of stuff. And I'm
Mm.
like, "Okay, happy days." Just doesn't mean anything to me at all because I just don't know anything about football, but everybody seems to be excited.
Yeah. So I saw in an interview you did recently that you weren't really into football prior to joining up with Maldon and Tiptree. So
Not
how
at
does
all.
someone who has self-professed wasn't into football, how do they end up being CEO of a football club?
I have absolutely no idea. My son is actually the owner of the club
Mhm,
and my partner Scott. So between the two of them, it was something that they really wanted.
mhm,
And we were moving back from the US by September anyway, because our daughter, she's 5 years old this year and she starts school. And we
mhm,
wanted her to go to school here in the UK, like my other children have done. And so we had always intended to be back for this coming September. It's just that it all happened much earlier. And by February, we were lock, stock, and barrel back here in the UK. We've been living in Miami for the last 10 years. So, it's a bit of a process moving back, but we're here now anyway. So, and we're excited. The boys, Aspen and Scott, are really throwing everything into making this club a success.
mhm,
It's a local community project for us. We live in the area. I set up my first business here in Maldon over 30 years ago. So for me, Maldon is and always has been a key place for us to come and go. And so my family know it really well. So when this opportunity came up, we were like, do you know what? This is a very good way of us one giving back to when I came to Maldon, I came with £20 in my pocket. I made my first £1 million here in Maldon.
mhm.
And so, it went from strength to strength and my company's all over the world now. But it was just a good way for us to be able to give back to the local community. So it was just a good project.
Yeah, absolutely. And you spoke about Scott and Aspin putting their all into the project. I mean, a lot's going on at the moment. I mean, the infrastructure of the ground itself seems to be expanding. You've also expanded into bringing through a women's team as well, as well as the investments in the men's playing squad. I mean, it's. I don't want to draw the comparison, but it's almost like a local version of the Wrexham thing.
A lot of the press keep on making that kind of link as well.
Hmm.
And I never watched the Wrexham thing, but that's definitely on my got to spend a whole weekend watching kind of list. So I'm gonna do that before the new season starts. But you know what? We wanted to bring in the women's team because women's football is very underrated right now, but it's getting there and people are starting to take
Hmm.
interest. The women's Euros are on this weekend. We've got a lot of friends that have gone over for that. And I've known a lot of people in that game for a long time. Some of my female friends play football and they love it. My own daughters love football. And so because of that, I really want to get involved in it. I think one of the biggest investments for us has been on the youth side. We
Hmm.
brought Liam Bailey over from Colchester as our full-time academy director, and Liam has done I can't even begin to tell you that man has not stopped since he started. He's working 20-hour days at the moment to get that academy off the ground. He's just got us into the Thurlow Nunn League with our under 18 players. He's working with a local educational facility to bring in the BTEC scheme and what have you.
Hmm.
And that's looking likely now to be up and running early 2026. So that's another good project for us. And again, looking at sustainability options for the club, it's such a good way to bring revenue into the club, but also to offer something as a pathway to the 250 youth players that we have on our teams each year, that when they have been finishing at 16 over the last 20 years, they've been going off to other clubs or academies. Now those kids that want to can stay here and follow that pathway through with our own BTEC academy. So we're really excited about that. And Liam has done the most amazing job I've ever seen. That man is so into football and making sure. Well, I mean, he was the academy manager over at Colchester for years,
Yeah.
So this is a guy who knows what he's doing as well, which is brilliant. And it just brings that professionalism. He's been able to recruit some amazing coaches because they know him and how he works. The same with our ladies manager. We wanted to bring in a team of people that were going to hit the ground running. So when we recruited our ladies manager, Jodie Buckley, he's just so into women's football. His daughter's all into women's, because he's invested because of his daughter, he really wants to see it go super well. And so he again has been able to bring in some amazing players. They had their recent AGM in Chelmsford a few weeks ago, and our guys, Liam and Jodie, and our club secretary, Jason, they all went down. They have to present to the AGM to say what league they want to go in. And they were put into a very low league. I think it was like, I don't know, say number 3. And they just weren't happy with that. And so they did a presentation, they argued the point, and they got us moved from that level to the Premier Division, which was incredible.
Yeah.
So now we've got to show that we know what we're doing and get a team of girls together that can literally go into that league and play those massive opponents.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so important for the game to have representation across all levels as well, and the fact that you've come in with a project that is including the women's side of the game, I think speaks volumes. It's brilliant. You're speaking about the academy project as well. You also spoke about giving back to the community. There's going to be lots of young people that live in and around the Maldon and Tiptree area that get to sort of 15, 16. They're not really sure on what they want to do post 16, and you've sort of given a pathway there as well, which is excellent. Looking through to next season, obviously, as I said, there's some big investments, namely Freddie Sears, Tom Eastman, Cameron James, Kevin Horlock in charge of them all. Where do you see Maldon and Tiptree finishing in the league? What are the aims and aspirations?
You know what? Any owner and any manager, they're all going to say the exact same thing. We want to do our best. We want to win the league and we want to do this, that, and the other. All I want to do is buy a new match day experience wardrobe, and an open top bus would be amazing at the end of the year. I want to go down Maldon High Street, right down to our competitors down the hill in Abridge, and show them how good we are.
Barrie Barlow there, talking about some of the amazing things that he has implemented alongside Scott and Aspin at Maldon and Tiptree. I also got the opportunity to chat to Mitchell Cowling within that interview as well. Unfortunately, the interview did run a little bit longer than I'd have hoped, but Mitchell did offer up the opportunity to chat to him in the near future about his role and how that's changed since the takeover at the club. One thing that Barrie also mentioned was the investment that he's going to be putting into the women's side as well, which isn't too dissimilar to what Colchester United have been up to. 2 back-to-back promotions, the Colchester United women's team are now preparing for a season in Tier 6. I spoke to Andy Drake and Louise Kane to talk about how the club was formed and what their aspirations are moving forward. So welcome back to the Beyond the Barside podcast. I am joined by Louise Kane and Andy Drake. How are you both doing? Are you okay?
Very well, thanks.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Lovely stuff. So we'll start off the back of another successful season for the ladies' side. How are things going? It's been a couple of years now since the ladies' side returned to Colchester United. What are your sort of perceptions of how things are going?
Yeah, I joined on the last season that we just had. So yeah, the season started off really well. Things were going good, and then towards the end, we sort of hit a bit of a blip. Things weren't too good for us, but finished back on strong. So yeah, you always get some issues, players not available, or injuries. I can count for that one. I've had two of them. So I missed a lot of games from that. But no, yeah, finished strong. So yeah, we finished quite well in the end for us.
Awesome. So yeah, it's been quite a rise with the ladies' side. Obviously, last season I was really impressed with the presence at the open day as well. In terms of incorporating the club within the wider Colchester United setting, how do you feel like you've been included into the general fold?
So it's quite a complex picture about how the structure of the whole team operates, and it's probably worth sort of trying to explain it a little bit, because then it'll probably give some understanding about where we sit. So the women's team sits as a program under the foundation, so it doesn't actually sit under Colchester United. They're two separate entities almost, although there's obviously lots of links between the two. So therefore, the Colchester United women's team has its own structure, has its own management team, has its own committee or board as well. So Robbie Cowling isn't the chair of Colchester United Women, that's Danielle Warnes, who is the chair. So it has its own structure, and it has its own funding platform as well. So our funding all comes from sponsorship and that sort of thing. So two totally different streams essentially, although it comes under the one umbrella of Colchester United. So I think it's really important to understand where the team sit. It's women's football is a growing thing, so it's always it's not a battle, but you've got to try and get that incorporation within the organisation, because people may not have experienced it before. So it's always a work in progress about understanding, getting the team out there. And one of my aims is to try and raise the profile of the team as much as possible. Hence why they're at the open day last season. They'll be there again this season, and just trying to get that inclusivity. It's like we had Sophie, one of our players, was part of the kit launch as well. So, so that's all the sort of things that we're trying to do with the club to make sure that it's seen as inclusive, seen as that we're trying to grow as a team and be involved as much as we can.
I think as well, you sort of look locally a little bit further down the road at Ipswich Town and how well they've included their women's side as well. Is that something that you're sort of looking to emulate, really, that you're very much at the forefront of everything that happens within a Colchester United umbrella?
Absolutely. So, and it's really good to learn some lessons from how Ipswich Women have done. They've just been promoted to WSL 2, so the second tier of women's football. We've just been promoted to tier 6, so we're a few rungs of the ladder underneath them. And when you look at how their teams developed, they now sit under part of their main club, but they started as part of their foundation as well, similar to us. So we're trying to kind of look at how do we learn from what they've experienced in their journey. One of the common questions we get is, why haven't we played at the stadium yet? But when you look at Ipswich Town Women, they only played at Portman Road a year ago. And that's when they were in tier 3. So you kind of look at that journey and go, actually, are we in the right place to actually play at the stadium? What would that experience be for playing at Portman? Would it pretty much be empty? Would it, and when you look at the cost of putting a game on at a venue, because there's always a cost of putting a game on, does that outweigh what we would gain from that, what exposure we get? So it's always a balancing act, but it's certainly something we want to try and emulate and learn from them and grow this side to follow them. Considering quite a few years ago, when the previous incarnation of the women's team, they were a tier 2 side. So Colchester United did have a tier 2 side at one point. So it'd be nice to try and climb those tiers as much as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. It was something that I was going to mention. Obviously, with Ipswich Town using the JobServe Community Stadium as a home ground next season. You've answered one of the questions that rather eloquently. But the next one I was going to ask in regards to it was, do you think having Ipswich Town play in Colchester will then bring more eyes onto the Colchester United team?
We certainly hope so. I don't see it as a bad thing that we have Ipswich women playing at our stadium. It's going to bring a high level of football to Colchester. They're going to be playing WSL2 football. And when we look at Ipswich last year, they played away at Manchester City in the FA Cup. If they're able to have a good cup run as well, they could easily be bringing one of the big WSL sides down to Colchester to play, if they're lucky with their draws. So I don't see it as a bad thing that people will get exposed to this level of football. And hopefully they'll then start to look further afield and go, okay, well, maybe we'll watch Colchester as well as Ipswich Town women who are at the stadium.
Absolutely. And obviously that's off the pitch to a degree. On the pitch, what are sort of the aims for next season, Louise? What sort of things are you hoping to achieve with the side?
Just to keep growing, really. They are new again. They've had double promotion, so the only way forward is to keep looking up. Recruitment is ongoing, and hopefully with that we can bring new people in with talent, and continue to push and grow together as a team. We just want to keep looking forward and just keep doing our best. To get as high as we possibly can, really. And I think just touching back on with Ipswich Town women coming in and playing, there's already been quite a lot of talk on social media about it, and the people have mentioned the Colchester women haven't played on there yet, and the fact now that they're talking about it, it might just help bring more people down to our games. If we can get more people down to the games, then we've got more chance of eventually getting there. And just having the people at the games makes you want to do more, makes you want to play better, for those people they're watching. So I think it's all positive, and just keep pushing forward, just keep looking forward.
Absolutely.
And just do as well as we can.
And in terms of recruitment, there's a lot of sort of open sessions that have been happening over the last few weeks as well that are sort of bringing people in. What is sort of the player pathway at the moment? What does that look like for a young player that's looking to play for Colchester?
We've got some young players already on the team, and we've got some of the older players. Me being one of them myself. So to have that balance between the older players with that experience and the younger players coming in or already in. You can hand off that experience onto them and you help them grow through those player pathways. Colchester United have already got a good player pathway as it is, and there's been a couple of players that have come through that already as well. So it is working, and we are getting players from it.
Absolutely, and obviously, as you say, back-to-back promotions. It's a step up into Tier 6. Just sort of a general overview of what Tier 6 looks like. Sort of, what sort of teams will you be coming up against in the league this year?
So off the top of my head, there's some teams on there that they have been in Tier 6 for a while, so they've experienced it. It is a different quality level of football. It is quicker football, and there are some really good young talent within those teams as well. But like I say, some of them have been there for a while, so they've got that experience already for it. And it's just going to be a bit of a learning curve for us. And like I say, just continue to keep pushing and keep growing together.
And
sorry,
go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, and geographically of that league, predominantly Essex-based teams, does go over into Hertfordshire and sort of Romford. That's right, and we just go into Suffolk with Grantham. So that's sort of where the eastern region south. But from my perspective, we've played some Tier 6 sides in the last couple of years. We played Southend last year in the County Cup and we beat them.
Yeah.
So although there are quality sides in that league, I don't think it, I'm talking probably on Lou's behalf here, I don't think it presents us anything that we can't match as a challenge. They're not going to be easy and they're good sides, but I think we'll be there to play competitive football.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. We like Andy said, we have played a couple of them already and won those games, and been a good match ourselves. So yeah, we definitely have got that chance.
Absolutely. And it's a relatively new coaching setup for this season as well.
It is, yeah. Millie's now got she's now head coach, which all of us were really happy for. We had a few come in and just like do a couple of sessions with us and stuff. But ultimately, Millie stepping up. I think it's going to be really good for the team, and there's a couple more coming in as well. And we've got to meet them and have a couple of sessions with them, and they're really good. I think it's going to be a really good thing for us with a stronger coaching team there.
Absolutely. And it sounds like at the moment, Colchester United is a very exciting, positive place to be. I think sort of to round it off, for sort of prospective people that are available to come and watch, what would you say is the selling point of coming to watch the football games?
I mean, as an example, we had Doris, I think she was 92, come down and watch her first ever women's football game with us. And we just sat down. I was injured at the time, sat down and had a chat with her. And so obviously she played football when she was younger, but it was not really spoke. You couldn't really like play football then. It was a bit of, yeah, it was hard in those days for women to get involved in it. And obviously how the times have changed, it was really nice to have her come down. She really enjoyed it, and then she kept coming back to more, and she brought some of her friends from the care home down as well. The atmosphere is brilliant. People always seem to enjoy it. I would just say, just come down, support your local team, support your local women's team as well, and just help us grow and watch us grow throughout this next step that we're taking.
Absolutely. And there is a full schedule, pre-season schedule online, isn't there, Andy? Do you want to just sort of point people towards the socials so that they know where to find it?
Yeah, so obviously we've got you got the Instagram page, got a Twitter page, and there's a Facebook page as well. We're under Colchester United Women. I can't give you the handles off the top of my head, I'm afraid. But there is they're playing a home match this Sunday, 2:30 kickoff against Brantham. There's another home game against Fulbourn Institute in a few weeks' time. I can't remember the date. They're a team that have also been promoted to Tier 6, but in the North Division, so it should be a good test as well, because it's a team of sort of similar quality. But I think just looking back to the point about why people should come, we've got a really good venue in the Garrison that we play our home matches on, although the friendlies will be at Shrub End. But it's a really good venue to come and watch football at. It's one of the best pitches, I think, probably in the county, at the Garrison, for anyone who knows it. Fantastic pitch to play on, grass pitch. We've maintained that entry is free, no cost to come in to watch the match either. So, you can bring your family, come along, watch it, etc., etc. And of course, at the Garrison, there is a small stand as well to sit in for people. So there is options to sit down as well. It's not just all stood around a field. So it's a good venue to come watch. And like Lou said, it's a really positive atmosphere that we're trying to foster there, about getting people in, coming to enjoy the matches, and just having a good afternoon on a Sunday.
Awesome. I'm going to round it off. I'm going to put you both on the spot a little bit. I apologise. I'm going to round it off with 3 questions, and they are: where do you think you'll finish at the end of the season, league position? Who is going to be the top scorer? And are there any potential opponents that you're most looking forward to facing?
Finish first.
Yeah.
Going for. Win the league.
That's the right answer as well. A lot of people have been quite conservative. First, yes.
Yeah, first, win the league. Question 2, what was that? Top goal scorer?
Top goal scorer, yeah.
I'm going to say Ruby Greenleaf. This is going to be her season. And opponent I'm most looking forward to playing is, I reckon, Stanway Pegasus.
Nice one. Andy, what are you going for?
Top, obviously. That's a given. I think Louise is going to weigh in with a few goals, so I'm going to go with Lou for my top goal scorer. I think she won't get any injuries, and she'll weigh in with a few more. And I think We had some good battles against She Can Play Panthers last year. They've been promoted as well, so I think they're going to be good matches to look forward to. They were proper battles, real tough games. They're a good side as well, so I think that's the one that I'm looking forward to most.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much, Andy Drake and Louise Kane. Cheers.
Thank you.
No problem.
Huge thanks to Andy and Louise there for their insights in how the club is run. This season for the men's side, it's been a little bit different in preparation for a new season, with rumours of a big American consortium coming in and taking over Colchester United, as if we were going to have our own Cinderella Wrexham-esque story. Recently, Robbie Cowling came out and said that he didn't feel that the deal was good enough for him to sell the club on to the Lightwell Group, and that he would continue looking for prospective buyers. It's a bit of a different pre-season to what we're used to, and I got to chat to U's fan Si to talk about that, alongside chatting about what he thinks we'll be up to for the upcoming season. Welcome back to the 25-26 preview for Colchester United. I'm joined by U's fan Si. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's exciting to talk about Colchester.
I know, again, as well, because you were recently with Gabe Sutton on his podcast, which was a sort of, was it a season review there as well?
Yeah, it's kind of a season review, how's it going, then obviously a bit of a look forward to next year, and just basically anything about yous, really, seeing how we're going to go, where we're going.
Yeah,
a lot has changed since then.
Yeah, well, we'll go straight into it then. A lot has changed. What was going to be the big American fairy tale Wrexham takeover is no more. Cowling came out earlier in the week and said that they couldn't agree to a deal, and he's open to meeting other prospective buyers. How are you feeling about that?
So I think it's positive in the fact that Cowling still said he wants to sell the club, so he's still committed to that, which means I feel that in the meantime he's going to still provide what's needed for the club, because he won't want to sort of dilute his product, so to speak, in order to then get less money when he does come to sell it. And then if you listen to read between the lines what he's saying about this being his last decision in Colchester, so he wants to make it his most important one and his best one. I think there may be an element of the fact that they weren't right for the club, or they maybe didn't have the finances longer term in order to take the club where Robbie seems to want it to go, where he sees it should be, and he's been open to admit he can't be the one to take it there, but he wants to see the club get there. So I think it could be a blessing in disguise. Obviously, it's frustrating for it to fall through so close to the start of the pre-season, get together for the lads and things like that. And I think it's going to be a blessing in disguise. It's just, in a way now, I wish we hadn't had any takeover rumours and we could just had a normal close season building into pre-season kind of thing. So I think it's almost worse having a takeover that's not happened than having a thought of no takeover.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of, it's given us something to talk about, definitely. I think other pre-seasons we've been guilty of, waiting for things to happen, and we've historically done our business quite late on. And it's given us something to have as a discussion. But I agree, Robbie clearly doesn't see the Lightwell Group as a long-term option for the club, and it's quite admirable that it's come out and said that he's keeping the club's well-being and interests at the heart of the sale. So as disappointing as it is, I think it's probably a positive outcome.
Yeah, I think it is,
if that is the case.
Yeah, and also, Robbie Cowling, I know, is very much like Marmite, isn't he? Some people can't stand him, some people love him and stuff. I'm personally the camp that I think he's done, from a business point of view, well for the club, and I generally do believe in him. He says he wants the best for the club. He might not appear at times, and this is why I think when he sells it, it will be to who he deems to be the right person. They sort of take the money and run, like he could have done this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree as well. There's been incidences where the club's been put at the forefront of his decision making. It's not always made him popular, but ultimately he's a multi-millionaire who is responsible for big business decisions, and he's had to make them in regards to the football club. But that's off the pitch. on the pitch, we've made a few signings. We've brought in 3 already, which seems quite strange as a Colchester fan, having so many players in before we've even played a pre-season friendly. Jaden Williams, Dominic Gape, and Jack Tucker returns. What are you thinking about that?
To be fair, I think it's all 3 of them coming in positions where they're going to add something to the squad.
Mm-hmm.
I think now we've probably got a very good forward setup.
Yeah, I think we're quite top heavy.
We are very much. I was chatting to a friend of mine in the car this morning. We were basically saying, I think it's defensively we're weakest at the moment, especially in the centre back department. That's where we need to. Because even Jack Tucker, I know obviously he does play centre back, but to me, I'll be looking to push him more into the defensive midfield role that he filled in for Jamie McDonald last season. And I think he's better suited there. He's more confident when he's got a little bit more protection behind him and can do the sort of boring stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he sort of acted as a screen, didn't he, when McDonald wasn't fit, and it did really did sort of come into the role well. I think a lot of it does hinge on Flanagan, whether he signs a new deal or not, which direction we go for a centre back. Because I think if he does sign, we'll look at the loan market similar to Donnelly. But then if he doesn't, there's a bit of a lack of experience in that back 4, with the exception of Ian Dolo. There aren't many sort of leaders within there that can, I don't know, lead from the back, so to speak.
Yeah, I think so. That's the drama we are having. Even if Flanagan does stay, I'm not a fan of him being captain personally. I don't think he's vocal enough, and I was very much hoping that Kelleher was going to re-sign and stay and be given the armband himself.
Yeah, obviously, me too. Yeah,
sadly hasn't happened. So you look at our centre back pair of options at the moment. Obviously, you've got Frankie Terry, who's young, quite raw, looking to push in. Then the other options are Goodliff and Flanagan. Now, Goodliff, yeah, obviously we'll joke about the whole agent Goodliff thing with Southend and everything, but at times, looking at how he played with them, I'm not convinced he's the answer to set back into our back line with experience and be the leader, so to speak. And I think Flanagan's contract is very much a bit like Taylor's, because Flanagan was going to retire last season. Obviously, he decided to do another year. I think they're both realising that it's us or nothing. So they're going to see what it comes in with, the sell-on clauses for players with Wiradoo and Puku. And then if Samson does go, how much money is in the pot for them to re-sign? But yeah, it's definitely an area I'm a bit worried about. Even at right back, obviously Rob Hunt's could be the first choice at the moment because who we've got. And yeah, I know everyone's on about Kane Vincent-Young and playing, but he's not the player we had originally. Now as he's that bit older, he's didn't really break into the team last year when he got his injury worries. So I think defensively, other than Ellis, we are looking raw at the back, like you said, and it's going to be worrying because Macy had such a good season last year with Kelleher and Flanagan sort of coming in and being dominant in front of him, helped him so much. We don't want to be seeing him kind of being left high and dry and venting his confidence at the same time.
Absolutely. And it's also a back 4 that doesn't have the luxury of Jamie McDonald in front of it. And that puts an awful lot of pressure on a back 4, not having someone who can break up the play before it gets to the 18-yard box. Gape may be the solution to that. Tucker may be the solution to that. But, with the lack of strength of depth we've got within the back 4, it does seem like that's the area that the Cowleys are going to target.
I think so, because Gape he's a midfielder, so must be looking to play him in midfield, which then, I suppose the common denominator there is that Tucker will then fit back into the back line. And Gape, he's not a McDonald type player, but obviously with experience and everything, he does read the game well, and you'd like to think he brings that experience into it. So they might not maybe have the energy to be literally everywhere and at times seem in 2 places at once. He hopefully will be able to read the game well enough to get himself in the right place at the right time to do, if that's the direction the Cowleys are going.
And we spoke about earlier on with one of the other guests, we spoke about the Cowleys coming out and saying that we're in a better position this year than we were this time last year in terms of the squad makeup. It was a huge rebuild last year, and I think there was a long bedding in time to sort of get that squad to gel. What do you think about this year? Where do you think the current squad, with a few additions, and we'll assume we will make a few additions, how do you think that fares in this year's League Two?
I think it'll be okay with the additions, because if you'd have taken the team we started with the last game of the season with Taylor fit on top of that, then you'd look and think, you know what, we've got a good squad here that could and will push on next season.
Mm-hmm.
So we've lost a few players out of that, who then we've got to see how we're going to replace them. But we've got, as we went through briefly, was out of the 11, there's only 3 potential players you're looking at maybe needing to, where the question marks are, there are people that can play there already. So you've got 8 or 9 players that, like say, have played together, got the core, been in pre-season from day one, which is always key, being together. I think we're better off where we were. And I know, going back to what Robbie said about the budget, and people are, we're not going to sign players. But actually last year it had to be higher because we had to sign so many players. Whereas this year, we have got a bit of reduced budget, we still be able to sign players because we're not then having to splash out on as many and all the associated fees that go with that. So I think it'll be interesting to see come the open day where the squad sits,
Yeah,
who
absolutely.
we've got in by then, and then obviously we are going to look to the loan market, and then once these Club World Cups finish, the sort of Premiership sides are all back at pre-season and kind of getting themselves back together. They'll obviously start to loan their players out to clubs. The Championship then looks to loan their players, and it will snowball down. Eventually, we'll find out who's available and who potentially we're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we utilised the loan market really well last season. I mean, Donnelly came in for the first half of the season and was exceptional, and then you had the revolution that was Jamie McDonnell in the middle of the park. So it's a market that we use quite well. It's a market that the Cowleys traditionally use quite well. I mean, that Lincoln side had some quite exceptional names looking back, Morgan Rogers being one of them. So they're not averse to looking at young players, bringing them in and giving them that experience within the Football League. And clubs are going to want their players to go out and play proper EFL football.
Yeah, and that's the bonus we've got, hitting on the head there. It's obviously the classic Col U thing sort of 2-3 years ago was to wait till the last day of the window, sign 3 loan players that are all injured, and then send them back a week later to their parent clubs because they can't play football.
Yeah.
Whereas because of having the Cowleys, clubs know them, clubs respect them and trust them with their players.
Yeah.
And all you've got to look at is obviously what they've done in Lincoln and other clubs, but closer to home with Donnelly and McDonald, clubs are going to be actually, one's got a permanent move to a Scottish Premiership club, and the other's is going to fly up the leagues as long as he progresses as his trajectory could do. So you'd like to think that because clubs trust the Cowleys, we might get players that in previous managers would have gone, the clubs wouldn't let us anywhere near them, but because they trust the Cowleys and have got their reputation, then it will be better long term like that.
I'm going to round it off with a bit of a quick fire crate. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm really sorry. I'm going to ask you predicted league finish, predicted player of the year, and a random signing that you can see us picking up.
Oh God! So I think we'll finish playoffs.
Yeah,
generally do. I'm not going to get how we'll do in the playoffs, but I think we'll finish the playoff positions. Player of the season, it will either be Ellis or Payne. And random signing. That's a really random. I don't know. Even put my spot out. I just can't. I'm trying to think of a random defender that they can sort of pick up from somewhere. That's what I'm going for, but I don't know.
It is hard. I'm trying to think of one now, and it is really difficult.
I think because you look and think, obviously, you can name sort of potential realistic ones, but sort of completely out of the ball. It's like, well, I don't know, because I suppose you can dream, can't you? But you can't really know where we're gonna go. Yeah. So I know. Obviously, I know we're very attack-minded, heavy and stuff. But Jamie Vardy's looking for a new club. Can we not do that?
Or whoever he replaces at Wrexham, we'll get hold of them.
Yeah. No, that's I'm generally stumped with that one. I'm sorry. It's kind of, I think I had it all in my head, obviously, like what we've done, what we're gonna do. Now, kind of a random. Oh, who do you love to sort of drag out of retirement somewhere? what he needs to do. Bring like Rio Ferdinand out of retirement, or drag something out. Jared Pique's not doing much over in Barcelona. Maybe we can get him in. He'd be a good little centre back.
Yeah, I like it.
He could definitely still do a job in League Two.
I think a centre back duo of Frankie Terry and his uncle John would be a very good one.
That'd be good. I only just see John get suspended and come running on his full Colchester kit to lift the League Two playoff winners met trophy or something crazy.
To lift the Johnson's Paint Trophy, whatever it's called now.
Or something like. So no, that'd be more just fun for the sort of like the crack that would come with it, rather than the.
Yeah.
Marcus Rashford's looking for a club as well, isn't he? Maybe we could get him down.
I mean, I like it. Are you going to be at the Maldon game yourself?
Yeah, I will be. I'm always at a loss without football. It kind of really confuses me what I do with my time on weekends and stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going all the pre-season games and everything. Looking forward to it kicking off. And it's nice, we've got a home game to start with for a massive change.
Yeah.
So obviously last time we had a home game, we got called off, didn't it? Because we managed to get a waterlogged pitch in August.
Absolutely chucking it down.
I'm about to say maybe a home game isn't such a good idea.
It was my nephew's first game, and it was called off because it was absolutely tipping it down. So we had to wait a few weeks. But cheers, Silas. It's been great, and I'll see you at the Maldon and Tiptree game.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Thank you very much for having me on.
So there you have it. That is episode 1 done of the Beyond the Barside podcast. A huge thank you to U's fans Dave and Si, Barry Druitt-Barlow, Mitchell Cowling, Andy Drake, and Louise Kane. I have been Aaron J, and if you've enjoyed the podcast, please do like and subscribe on all of the major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple, or like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a little bit of a review, give us a comment if you liked it. If you didn't, don't, if that's all right. I've been Aaron J, and I will be with you next week ahead of the Dagenham and Redbridge friendly. Take care. Cheers.